And now we will learn how to record invoice payments with your QuickBooks Online phone app. Now, the challenge of recording invoice payments is applying the payments to specific invoices. But there is something you should know. The screen to record invoice payments behaves the same as the Receive Payment screen in both QuickBooks Online, logging in from a computer, and the desktop version, which is also on the computer. You can watch the videos about applying invoices right here on this very website. To see the results of how payments were applied, you should look at the Open Invoice Report by logging in with a computer. Now, here's our example. Let's imagine June 3rd. We received check number 721 for $280 from Debbie Reynolds for invoice number 6, and that's the one that's due on July 1. Watch how to record the payment and apply the payment to the proper invoice. To record an invoice payment, tap the three lines for the main menu, scroll down to where it says Invoice Payment, which is right under Invoice, Invoice Payments. Now you have to tap the plus sign to put in a new invoice payment. Okay, now the date, obviously today I'm filming this on August 1, but the date that we're supposed to record it is June. So I have to go back to June. I have to type the back arrow, or hit the back arrow to go to June. It's actually June 3rd. So I'm going to tap June 3rd, and when I'm satisfied that I chose the right date, I'm going to tap OK. Now, the method, let's imagine that Debbie gave us a check. That means that the reference number is the check number. So we have to tap in the field, even though the cursor is there, in order to bring the alphabet and the numeric. Tap down here to get the numbers, and let's type in 721, which is the check number. Now that we're done, you have to find the back arrow on your particular Android or iPhone. In my case, it's this one. So that's the phone's back arrow. Now, push up. Okay, actually, we have to choose the customer. See, if you don't choose the customer, QuickBooks doesn't know which invoices you're paying. So you have to tap the plus sign, and then you get the list of customers. In this case, it's Debbie Reynolds. Now, once we choose Debbie Reynolds, you can see all of her open invoices. And as I mentioned before, this screen behaves similarly to the Receive Payment window in the desktop and online version. If you choose to put in the amount by tapping in the amount field and typing, the way to save any field is to tap away to another field. So this amount field still has the cursor in it, it's not saved. But if I click, for example, back in the reference number field, notice it saved the amount. Now the problem, well, again, to get rid of the alphabet, you have to tap your Android or iPhone's back arrow, and that'll get rid of the alphabet. But notice what happened. QuickBooks assumed the entire $280 is going to be applied to the oldest invoice. That's very similar, or it's really the same as the way the Receive Payment window works in the desktop version. Now, you could tap to uncheck the wrong one and then tap to recheck the right one if that's the amount, but that's the problem. The problem is when you tap the box, QuickBooks assumes the amount of the payment is the amount of the invoice. So you can't do it that way. So let's remove the check mark. Well, you can if you're paying exactly the amount of one invoice. So I recommend that you do not put anything in the amount field. If you're paying the exact amount of an invoice, you should just tap this and QuickBooks will put the amount. If you're paying a partial amount, which we are in this case, let me remove that because we're actually paying a partial amount of this invoice, the $880 invoice. So we're actually paying $280. So again, if you tap for the invoice, it assumes you're paying the whole amount. But if you tap here and remove what QuickBooks put, you can overtype it with the amount that you actually are applying. Then, to save that field, you can tap in any other field, but I like to tap in the amount field, so it will adjust the amount field to the actual amount you're paying. Now again, to get rid of the numbers, tap your own Android back phone, and now you have the $200 applied to the invoice that's due on July 1 for Debbie Reynolds. The one that was $880 will have its balance go down. So, now that I've included all the information, I'm going to tap Done. Okay, and you will see that's a $280 payment applied to that second invoice for Debbie Reynolds. Now that was easy to record, but there are some other things you should know. First, you cannot record invoice payments directly deposited to the bank with your phone app. Any invoice payment you record with the app must go into the account called undeposited funds. Now, one option to fix this problem is after you record it with your phone, you can log in from a computer and record the deposit from undeposited to the bank. And you just put the same date that you physically received it and everything will work out fine. Another option to solve the problem, if the customer does not put a check or cash in your hand and the customer instead puts the money directly to your bank account, you can record it with your phone and it'll go into undeposited funds, and then later when you do the bank feeds, you can match the invoice payment when it clears the bank. In other words, you record it when you get it on your phone, even though it's in the bank, and even though the phone will put it into undeposited funds. Then when you do the bank feeds and you see that transaction in your bank feeds, you have the ability to match it to the transaction that you already recorded in undeposited funds. And I promise you, when we get to the bank feed section, I'm going to demonstrate that exactly.